What if I told you that one morning in 2017, 31 million Americans woke up with a disease they didn't have the night before? No new symptoms, no blood test that suddenly got worse, their bodies hadn't changed at all. What changed was a definition on a piece of paper. In this video, I'm going to show you how the numbers that define healthy have quietly moved over the last 40 years, and why that matters way more than most people realize, especially if you or someone you love has ever been told you're pre-diabetic or your cholesterol is high. Because here's the uncomfortable question: if the diagnosis didn't come from your body getting sicker, where did it come from? If you're dealing with any kind of chronic health issue, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, blood sugar problems, the single most useful question you can ask isn't, what medication do I need? It's, when did this actually start, and what happened right before that? Sometimes the answer is a real change in your body, but sometimes the answer is a committee meeting. Let's look at the receipts. Let's start with blood pressure, because this is the clearest example. For decades, 140/90 was considered the line for high blood pressure, hypertension. Then in 2017, new guidelines lowered that threshold to 130/80. Overnight, literally overnight, more than 31 million additional Americans were reclassified as having hypertension, not because their arteries changed, not because their hearts got weaker, because the line on the chart moved. Think about what that means for a second. A person with a reading of 132/82 went to bed normal and woke up diagnosed. Same body, same blood vessels, same lifestyle, new label. That label isn't neutral. It can mean new medications, new appointments, a new identity as someone with a chronic condition, and yes, often real treatment costs. Cholesterol tells almost the same story, just slower. Go back to 1988. An LDL cholesterol level of 190 was considered acceptable. By 2001, that threshold had dropped to 130, and statin prescriptions doubled. Then in 2013, the classification for high cholesterol dropped again. So across roughly 25 years, the number that separates you're fine from you need a prescription kept sliding downward. Each time it slid, a new wave of people who felt exactly the same as they did the day before suddenly qualified for treatment. I want to be clear about something. This isn't a claim that cholesterol never matters or that guidelines are written maliciously. But it is worth asking, when a threshold moves and prescriptions double, is that because we discovered dramatically new danger at that number, or because the definition of normal simply got redrawn? Now here's the one that affects the most people alive today. Prediabetes wasn't always a diagnostic category. It was introduced as a classification, a new zone between normal and diabetic. Today, when you combine diabetes and prediabetes, the number sits above 115 million Americans. That's roughly 1 in 3 adults, carrying a label that, for many of them, didn't exist a generation ago in the way it's used now. And here's the part that should really make you pause. Despite all these expanded categories, more people diagnosed, more people medicated, more people monitored, none of this has translated into Americans living meaningfully longer, healthier lives. More diagnosis has not equaled more health. If moving thresholds aren't the root cause, what is? A lot of research points to one common thread underneath: blood pressure, cholesterol and blood sugar problems, chronically elevated insulin. When insulin stays high for years, often driven by a high-carbohydrate diet, it doesn't just affect blood sugar. It's linked to inflammation, blood vessel changes, and metabolic stress that can show up as high blood pressure, poor cholesterol markers, and eventually diabetes. In other words, these 3 separate diagnoses might often be 3 expressions of the same underlying problem. And that's the piece that usually gets skipped. When someone gets a chronic disease diagnosis, the conversation often jumps straight to a prescription and skips right past the lifestyle and nutritional root causes that might actually be driving the numbers in the first place. I'm not telling you to ignore your doctor or throw away your medication. Please don't do that. What I am telling you is this: the next time you get a number back, a blood pressure reading, a cholesterol panel, a blood sugar test, ask 2 questions. First, is this number telling me something changed in my body, or something changed in the definition? Second, has anyone looked at the root cause, like insulin and carbohydrate intake, or did we go straight to a prescription? Asking those 2 questions won't just make you a more informed patient. It might change how you approach your entire health going forward. If this opened your eyes even a little, hit subscribe, because next week I'm breaking down exactly how elevated insulin drives each of these conditions, and what actually brings it back down. Drop a comment, were you diagnosed with prediabetes, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol? I want to know your number and when you got the label. See you in the next one.